Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
See, I, like many people on Sunday, watched the Super Bowl. And because I'm a Browns fan, I did what a lot of you guys did, which was think of the Browns during the Super Bowl. Not because the Browns are close to a Super Bowl or that they were one or two plays away. No, we were very, 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 very far away from getting to a Super Bowl this year. But when you watch a Super Bowl, you're obviously watching two teams that found a way to get to the Super Bowl. And if you're a Browns fan, your goal every year is to hope for your team to get to the Super Bowl. So you're seeing two teams demonstrate pathways to get there when you're watching the Super Bowl. And a lot of people saw this playoffs play out, saw the two teams in the Super Bowl and asked themselves this question, like, hey, is defense back? Is this a defensive era of football? Because not only did a defensive-oriented team win this year, last year a defensive-oriented team won the Super Bowl. Honestly, even the last year that Pat Mahomes won the championship, that was a defensive-led team. It's been a long time since a team whose biggest strength is their offense has won a Super Bowl. It feels like it's leaning towards elite defenses over elite offenses. And the Browns do have an elite defense. Now, unfortunately, they don't have an elite offense or a good offense or a decent offense or an offense that's acceptable. They have a very, very bad offense, and we'll talk about that. But you watch these teams win with defense, and you know that you have what it takes. Defense. We got the best defensive player on the planet. We got some of the best defensive. I think we got the best defensive roster in the NFL, and I think we have as much potential on defense as any other team. So you watch the Super Bowl and you say to yourself, maybe we're not that far off. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what the Super Bowl told me about the future of the Cleveland Browns. But before I do that, got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper.
Hey, have you heard of the Sleeper app? It is a place where you can go to play fantasy football. It's also a place you can go to do picks. You can put your knowledge on the line, make some picks, and see who knows ball the most, and maybe even, be rewarded for your knowledge. Go on the Sleeper app, make sure you sign up using the promo code WORSTTAKE, and you'll get a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Make sure you check out the Sleeper app.
The first thing I think the Super Bowl taught me about the Browns is that this defensive team, this defensive unit, the Cleveland Browns, if they had a proper support in special teams and in offense, I think they are capable of doing what the Seahawks have done, of doing what the Houston Texans were doing this year, and of doing what the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots have done. I think if you swap out the Browns defense on any of those four teams, they're going to be able to accomplish everything that they accomplished all year. Because the Browns defense is truly that good. Like, the Browns aren't an adjustment away from being as good as Seattle or something like that, right? The Browns, I think, are already as good as Seattle. And I think that's part of why internally they've had so much worry about the defensive side of the ball while firing their head coach and Kevin Stefanski, who's an offensive mind, because I think they recognize that internally. And when you look at the defense like that, it's like, hey, yeah, could it get better? I think in very small incremental ways, it can get better. But this defense is about as good as a defense can be in the NFL. The reason it doesn't feel like that all the time is because the Browns' offense is terrible. And because the Browns' offense is terrible, it puts the defense on the field more. And when you put the defense on the field more, they're going to let more points be on the scoreboard. They're going to get tired. They're going to get worn down. But even with the Browns dealing with all of those disadvantages, they're still top 3 in expected points, right on par with every other defense in the NFL that we just talked about being elite tier. And still, somehow, miraculously, with one of the worst performing offenses in the NFL, one of the most high performing turnover offenses in the NFL, with an offense that gives them an average starting position that's pretty terrible for the defense, the Browns, despite all of those circumstances, still have the 5th lowest score percentage given on a drive defensively. Like, that's a top 5 number despite having no help. I think if the Browns had the offense that the Seattle Seahawks have, the Browns would be the best defense in the NFL. And they would be on a Super Bowl caliber team and possibly win a Super Bowl. That's the frustrating part about the Browns right now. See, I've lived through eras of the Cleveland Browns where they are much, much, much less talented than they are right now. When I hear people talk about this team having no talent, it makes me feel like people are spoiled or people don't like just remember what not having talent actually feels like. Because I've watched this team not have talent. I've watched this team not have a single player better than Denzel Ward is right now for like 10 years. Like, it was like Joe Hayden maybe on defense. Like, I know what it's like to go years without a double-digit sack guy. This Browns team, the reason they're frustrating is not because they're not talented. The reason they're frustrating is because they are talented. They are capable of more. That's what makes this difficult over the last few years. And that's what makes where the Browns have been over the last few years more difficult than where they were for my entire childhood, where they were just bad. They didn't have any talent. They didn't have any potential. They were just always bad. The problem with the Browns is they do have potential. They do have talent. They could be much better than they are if some things went right, if they made a proper decision here at quarterback or made another good decision here at another position. They could be what the Seahawks are. But that's not how the cards laid out. If Deshaun Watson actually lived up to the promise, we would probably be the Seahawks. Like, think about that. If instead of Deshaun Watson being an absolute pumpkin and being completely useless to this franchise for 3 years, if he was who he was promised to be coming out of Houston, the top 5 quarterback, hell, let's not even go top 5, just top 12 quarterback. If he's a top 12 quarterback in today's NFL, the Cleveland Browns would have been, from 2023 until now, one of the best teams in the NFL. I have no doubt in my mind that that'd be the case. The Cleveland Browns would have probably won a Super Bowl if he was able to live up to his hype. That's what makes this era tough. There was an opportunity there for greatness. We missed the bus. We backed the wrong horse. And, we can argue about if Baker Mayfield would have been able to reach the highs that we had hoped for if he stayed at quarterback. Some people are going to feel very passionate about that one way or the other. But that's one of the things that I look at is like, damn. I watch the Seahawks and I think to myself, that should be us. I watch the Denver Broncos and I think to myself, at a minimum, that should have been us. Like, the Denver Broncos are what we thought the Browns were going to be with the 2023 version of Deshaun Watson. The Seattle Seahawks are who we thought we could be with the version of Deshaun Watson that we hoped to get. And unfortunately, we're sitting here with a defense that is more than capable of doing what the Seahawks can do, but not getting the opportunity to do that simply because they aren't good enough on special teams and they aren't good enough on offense. And that's frustrating. It's frustrating as hell. That's one of the things I learned. This defense, the Browns defense, I watched them, I watched Seattle, and I say to myself, we're just as good as them. We're just as capable of playing high-level football for 4 weeks as the Seattle Seahawks. So defensively, I don't think you need to make giant changes there. I don't think you really even need to make giant changes to how you attack teams. Whatever you're doing, it works. It's really about the offensive side of the ball, which brings me to the second thing I've learned by watching the Super Bowl. We need to be serious about where the Browns are and where they need to be, especially at the quarterback position. Because it's easy to tell yourself that Sam Darnold's not that good and that we could easily get to Sam Darnold's level of quarterback play. But I'm going to be honest with you. We're not that close to Sam Darnold's quarterback. We're very far away from reaching Sam Darnold level play at quarterback. That's just the truth. We aren't going to get where we want the Browns to get by lying about it. We aren't close. That's just the reality, right? It reminds me of the Brian Scalabrine quote. For those of you who don't know, Brian Scalabrine, when I was like in high school, he was like a well-known bench player in the NBA. Like he was like the face of bench players in the NBA. They called him the White Mamba as a joke, right? He played into it, but he would always make the point, yeah, I might not be a good NBA player, but understand that me as a 12 man on a bench, I am closer to being Michael Jordan than you, person on the street, are to being me when in terms of basketball skills. And like I think he used to do these videos where he would play like regular Joes and just smoke them all the time, right? You know, and that reminds me of where the Browns are at quarterback. You might not think highly of Sam Darnold. You might not think that Sam Darnold's all that. But I need you to understand where the Browns are. Sam Darnold is much, much closer to Pat Mahomes than we are to Sam Darnold. That's just what it is. We are very far away. And here's what I mean by that. Sam Darnold in the playoffs this year had a success rate of 50%, a CPOE, completion percentage over expectation, of plus 2.1, and a EPA drop back per play of 2.35. Shedeur Sanders last year, who was the best performing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, so this is the best that the Browns have on the roster right now, is Shedeur Sanders. He was a 37% success rate, which is minus 13 off of where Sam Darnold was. He had a minus 5 completion percentage over expectation, which is minus 7.1 percentage points away from where Sam Darnold was. And he was minus 186 in EPA, which is 421 points away from where Sam Darnold is in that same stat. Here's something to keep in mind. If we talk about the Josh Allen leap, right, from where Josh Allen was in 2019 to where he leaped to in 2020, we talk about that leap as one of the biggest leaps that a quarterback can make in a single offseason. The Josh Allen leap is legendary. It's historic. It's unprecedented, right? Like this is something that has never happened before and many people believe will never happen again, is the leap that Josh Allen made in advanced statistics specifically from 2019 to 2020. Josh Allen in 2019 had a 44.9% success rate, a minus 1.6 completion percentage over expectation, and was 0.43 in the positive in EPA. The next year, he made a jump of about 11 percentage points in success rate. So he went from 44.9 to 56.3. The next year, he made a jump of about 7 points in completion percentage over expectations. So he went from minus 1.6 to 6.6. And then he made a jump of about 240 EPA points, going from 0.043 to 0.283. In order for Shedeur Sanders to reach where Sam Darnold was in the playoffs, he would have to make a Josh Allen-sized leap in almost all of those statistical categories. That is how far away we are from where we are right now to where we need to be. Because a lot of people are talking right now as if Sam Darnold is about as low as you can go to win a Super Bowl. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think Sam Darnold is about as good as you need to get to a Super Bowl. He's the Mendoza line of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. But understand, where we are and Sam Darnold is much closer to Pat Mahomes. He's much closer to Josh Allen than we are to Sam Darnold. That is not to disrespect any of the quarterbacks on the Browns roster. We're just keeping it real. The Browns have not had a quarterback on the roster that has had a success rate of over 40% in like 2 years. We are very far away from reaching even Sam Darnold levels of success. So when we talk in the offseason like it's easy to get a Sam Darnold, we're fooling ourselves. This is going to take a lot of work. You're going to have to put a lot of work in if you want to get to Sam Darnold. You're going to have to invest, be smart, make some smart decisions, be patient in the right spots, and you're going to have to get lucky if you want to get to Sam Darnold level quarterback play. We got to stop talking about this shit like quarterback's just going to be easy. It's going to be the most difficult thing this franchise has ever intentionally tried to do, which is find a quarterback that could be as good or better than Sam Darnold. And we're not going to get there by lying to ourselves about what players are doing or aren't doing. Because that's the Mendoza line. What Sam Darnold has produced, that is the Mendoza line. That is the line that will tell you whether you'll be successful or fail. If the Browns can't get past that line, they can't achieve what they have on the potential side on defense, which is a Super Bowl championship. So we got to get real about that. We got to be real honest about what it is they need at the quarterback position. Because, yeah, the Seahawks defense was the star of the show. But in order for that star to show to shine, they had to get that out the quarterback position. They had to have one of the highest score percentage offensively of all teams in the NFL. Like, this was not a middling offense. This was a fringe top 10 offense that the Seattle Seahawks had. Here's the last thing I'll say before I wrap up this video. A lot of people see what the Seahawks did, and I think it's a good thing that it's given some Browns fans some hope about the future. And I think that hope is useful. But understand this. If you're trying to imitate what the Seattle Seahawks were able to accomplish, you have to respect how they did it. You can't disrespect how they got there and think you're going to make a quality imitation of it, right? Think of all the best impressionists that are the stand-up comedians that could do great impressions. They respect the source of that impression. They take it seriously, right? It's a serious thing for them. If you think about some of the best covers of songs or best cover performances, it's because they respect the source. If you're trying to imitate something, if you're trying to replicate something, you better respect the original source. And a lot of times, what I see is people suggesting that they replicate formulas because they think it's easy and because they actually have no respect for the source. And they think that, it's going to be an easy way to get to a championship. Oh, we could just do what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts ain't that good. Jalen Hurts is hard to find. Oh, we could just do what the Seattle Seahawks did. Look, Sam Darnold not that good. We could just get Mac Jones. That's not the same thing. That's just not. You got to respect what Sam Darnold was able to accomplish. You got to respect what the Seattle Seahawks offense was able to accomplish if you hope to replicate it. You're not going to get there by being like, Sam's not that good. So even though this guy has flaws that are obvious at the quarterback position, whoever that quarterback may be, we can replicate them with in the aggregate. That's not how you're going to replicate stuff. And too often I see NFL teams try to replicate formulas of success that they really don't respect. It's always a plan for a failure. If you're trying to replicate a formula for success, not out of respect, but because you think it's the easiest way to go. I agree with people. The way the Seahawks got good, That's a path to get good for the Cleveland Browns. But let's be honest about how they got there. 4 years of great drafts by John Snyder led up to that championship. 4 years of first-round draft picks. They made a very, very tough decision at quarterback to move on from a fan favorite in Geno Smith to go after Sam Darnold, who had a lot of questions but more upside. And they were right. They made a tough decision to let go of Pete Carroll, a fan favorite, a championship-winning head coach, to go with somebody that they thought was better for today. And it worked out. The Seahawks did not get here easily. The Seahawks got here really, 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 really by working and by putting a ton of work in and by having some things roll their way. The Browns can replicate that maybe. They have the defense to do it. But you got to respect how the Seahawks did it in order to replicate it properly and not think you're just going to do it because you think it's a way to get over easy, to find a way to be successful without a quarterback. Sam Darnold, whether you respect him or not, he was a quarterback that is hard to find in the NFL this season and in the playoffs. We can't just act like he chopped liver. We can't just act like he grow on trees. We can't just act like all we got to do is spray some special sauce on quarterback X and he's going to be that. We got to do what Seattle did, which is be relentless in our pursuit at finding a quarterback that can get us over that bar. And if quarterback X isn't doing it for us, we got to move on. That's what Seattle did. That's what you have to have respect for, not just what the results were, but the process too. So anybody out there saying we need to follow that Seattle template, I hope we're doing it for the right reasons. So if you're going to use Seattle as a template, don't disrespect what they did. Offense was a factor. You're going to need a JSN. You're going to need tight ends who could swing the game. You're going to need yourself a bell cow running back. You're going to need an offensive line. You're going to need a quarterback who could get you above 50% in success rate. And none of that shit is easy. The Browns have the defense. They got a lot of ways to go on offense, and we got to start being honest about just how far they have to go on offense at certain positions, if that's the goals of the Cleveland Browns. But that's what I learned from watching the Super Bowl. Let me know what you learned in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.